It is time for Now with Damien Calment. And that is me, Damien Calment. If you're on the West Coast, good morning to you. Good early morning to you. If you're listening in the UK, good evening to you. And if you're listening by the new cable network, the Now Network on the East Coast and parts of Africa and Europe through the television cable network, good day to you today. Before we start on our talk today, which is about self-love, let's take a deep breath. Let us center ourselves. Any confusion, any fear, any trepidation that's going on in your mind right now, let's just exhale. And let us, from the top of our head to the bottoms of our feet, let's just inhale all the peace, all the comfort, all the light, all the love that you can handle today. For you see, we have been called and gathered for this time. We have been called and gathered by the light of the Holy Spirit for this time to be with one another, this time to be able to grow, this time to be able to expand the Godness in us, to expand who we are, to expand if we could live intentionally on this planet. I say all the time that the purpose of us being on the planet is to be the extension of God, the expression of love on the planet. Dear God of many names, today let us be one. Let us be in unity. Let us be in that oneness of love. And so it is. Self-love. Self-love is an action, not a state of feeling good. Self-love helps you to decide for something rather than against something. Your mental and your emotional and your spiritual health. I often say that I would like my life to be a statement of love and compassion. And where it isn't, that's where my work begins. Do you know, as a child and even as an adult, no matter what I did, nothing was ever good enough. Every time I tried to achieve something, it seemed like the bar was raised higher. And it was depressing because I was never good enough for people that I was trying to please. When I was in the church and as a minister, I never met the criteria for what ministers needed to meet to be good enough. And when I was in the world of showbiz, I was always measuring myself by others. Validation. Oh, what a hard word that is. You know, it's a real sensitive topic for us because, well, for me, I know it all too well. I spent the majority of my young life and adult life trying to get validation. That if I was validated by somebody, then that was proof of that I could exist on the planet. That was proof that I was okay. But self-love is not an action, and it is not a state of feeling good. But what is self-love? You know, I thought if you love yourself, then self-love is selfish, but self-love is not selfish. But why do we struggle to love ourselves? It seems like it should be such a natural thing, but for me, it hasn't been. It hasn't been natural to look in the mirror and tell myself that I'm a wonderful human treasure, because that's not something that I have believed. That's not something that has been a part of my DNA. And I've had to struggle to get to the point that I could say, I really like myself. And to be very honest with you, it's only been in the past few years that I could actually say, I really like who I am as a person. And that is something with me. But as a child, I tried to be what everybody else wanted me to be. I tried to act like how everybody else wanted me to be. You know, I've told the story many times of how when I was young that my mother poured hot grease and it was supposed to go on my head. Instead it went on my back, and I ended up in the hospital. And in the hospital, where it was nice and clean and quiet and sterile, I remember saying, I'll be good. I'll be good. Whatever they want me to do and be and act like, I'll be and act like I'll be good. And when I left the hospital, ingrained in me, in my little 3-year-old brain, was that I'll be good, and I've got to be what everybody else wanted me to be and do, because if I didn't, then something worse than being burnt would happen to me. So I stopped and I realized that all of my life I've looked at what other people wanted me to be and do. And if I could figure out what you wanted me to be and do, then I was okay. And when my name was Stephen, before I changed my name to the name I have now, people would say, well, what does Steve want? And I had no idea what little Steve wanted. I had no idea what big Steve wanted. I had no idea, because it wasn't about me wanting something. It was about me wanting to please you and to be what you needed me to be. Because if I was what you needed me to be, then I was okay. And then, you know, when I was in the church, it was like trying to be what that denomination wanted me to be. And then when I started as a gay man, then it was validating myself by if men found me attractive. And if a man didn't find me attractive or want me, then there must be something wrong with me. And then, you know, go on these fabulous, and I use that in quote, dating apps that are out there that are actually in reality hookup apps. If I would spend hours on those apps and then nobody wants me, then the validation wasn't there. So I always thought that the key for me to feel whole was somebody else validating me. Thinking that you need someone else to validate you is really why you don't feel good enough. It sounds crazy. And because we lack our own belief in our own validation that we're not enough, then our self-esteem becomes low. And our self-esteem can be so low that we don't even have any self-esteem. So my thought today on this is that confirm to yourself every day whatever it is that you desire, and let it be because you say so, not because mama said so, or papa said so, or the society says so, or a boyfriend, girlfriend says so. There's no need to look for things in others that you can give yourself. We have to give to ourselves first before we can give to others. Now today, this talk I've titled A Prescription of Self-Love. And in my research for the topic of the self-love and listening to what other people have written and other people have said, everybody's saying the same thing. You can find exactly the same thing that I'm saying today if you just Google it. However, what you can't find is perhaps somebody that has struggled to get to that point, that knows exactly what you're feeling and what you're thinking. So the number one prescription for self-love is you've got to become mindful. You've got to come to a place that you're aware of what do you think, what do you feel, what do you want. Now, you might want to take a piece of paper and just go, what am I thinking? And just take a few moments to write down, what do you think? What are you feeling? What is it that you really want? And what is it that you feel you can do to either get those things or to change those things? Like if you're feeling lonely, say you write down, I'm feeling lonely. Well, can I say this to you? You only feel lonely when you don't have yourself. It's possible to be alone and not feel lonely. It's possible to be in a relationship and feel lonely. It's possible to be in a group of people and feel lonely. The only way to feel lonely is when you don't have a sense of who you are yourself. That's heavy, I know that is. The second one is act on what you need rather than what you necessarily want. You say, what you talk about on that one? Look at what you need. What is it that you need in your life? What is it you need? Stay focused on the needs that you have, and then begin to turn away from those automatic behavior patterns that get you into trouble. You know, those dating apps, those movies, those whatever, those places you might go that get you in trouble. Are those part of your need or part of your pattern that you have established because of the loneliness that you feel? And practice good self-care. It's a hard one. What is self-care? Part of self-care is valuing yourself. When you value yourself, then you set a standard for other people, how they treat you. When you value yourself, you know how to say the word no. Now, no is 2 letters, and yet no is a complete sentence. When somebody asks you something that you don't want to do, say no. Oh, but I might hurt their feelings. Oh, they might think, oh, da-da-da. Then we're back to that thing of validating who we are by what they think of us. But when you know who you are, there are ways to say no without being mean. There are ways to say no, just say no. And when you begin to say no enough, and it becomes part of who you are, then people that are around you, they're not going to keep pushing the issue that maybe it is, maybe it isn't, maybe it is. But when you practice self-care, you practice a better nutrition. I'm not going to harp on the nutrition because, you know what? I eat chips, I drink Dr. Pepper, but I try to do things in a moderation. I get a proper amount of sleep, and my social interactions, I use the word endeavor, to make them healthy social interactions. I begin to interact with people that are a healthier state of mind that lifts me up rather than pulls me down. Have you been around people that all they do is pull you down? Why do you think that happens? When we don't feel good about ourselves, we're going to bring people into our lives to beat us up. Maybe not physically, maybe physically sometimes. When you don't feel good about yourself, and you don't feel good about who you are, you're going to invite people into your life to take control of your life, to take your money, to take your substances, to take the joy, to leave you with nothing. Because you see, we don't think it's socially acceptable to beat ourselves up. So subliminally, we'll attract people to us that are going to be the bloodsuckers and the leechers and those that will take the energy from us rather than empower us. So part of a self-care is to begin to associate with people and put our social interactions into people that lift us up, that see us as wonderful human treasures, that see us as talented, that see us as the people that we really are, that sometimes believe in us more than we believe ourselves at the moment. And when you meet somebody that can believe in you more than you can believe yourself at the moment, hang on to them, because their belief can be so strong that will help you to mold a better image of who you are. And then we want to set boundaries. Wow, that's a hard one for me. It's something I'm constantly working on. It's that I have to set boundaries and say no to work, no to going somewhere, no to people staying with me. Okay, they don't have a place to stay. Well, constantly giving people a place to stay. You know, you have no place to stay. Well, come on, stay with me. I don't know you very well, but you stay with me, and then I don't tell you right off the bat, but go ahead and steal from me when you leave. Okay, not setting boundaries to take care of me physically, emotionally, and spiritually. And I express by taking in people sometimes how needy I am without even realizing it. Third is it, not fourth, but the fifth one would be to protect yourself. And that again is bringing the right people into your life. There's a new term that I came in contact with this last week, and it's called frenemies. Frenemies. Those are friends that are actually enemies. It's the type of friends that take pleasure in your pain rather than your happiness. These frenemies. And when you have frenemies in your life, it's time to let them go. Time to get rid of them. You say, well, if I get rid of my frenemies, I won't have any friends. If you get rid of your frenemies, maybe you make some room for some real friends that care about you. There isn't enough time in your life to waste time on people who take away the shine off of your face, that take away the light that you have. When you genuinely begin to love yourself, then you begin to respect and love yourself more and more, to the point that you surround yourself more with this people that bring love and light to you. One of the ones that I really have to dig in deeply today with myself is forgive yourself. Why are we so hard on ourselves? Now, I can forgive you for something that you've done to me or that I appreciate that you've done to me. But why is it so hard for me to set and forgive myself for some of the stupid things that I've done to myself? Why can't I forgive myself for the stupid choices that I've made? And I have made a lot of choices that are not wise choices. And yes, when I'm teaching you, can look all glamorous, and I can say, and you say, well, you really have a message, and I can say, oh yes, but you first have to have a mess before you have a message. But what about forgiving myself for the messes that I've been in? Sounds good when I say you can have a message out of it, and yes, I do try to live my life that my life becomes a message. But there are some areas, y'all, that I'm still digging around in, trying to do the self-forgiveness for the messes that I created, and the taking responsibility and saying, yes, I'm the one that created that relationship that was a mess. And rather than just learning from it and growing from it, letting it go, sometimes I will mull it over and over in my mind. Oh, how could I have been so stupid? Beat myself up, beat myself up, beat myself up. And as I do that, I reach back and bring somebody into my life that's going to beat me up, and somebody that resembles that mess that I was in. When you truly forgive yourself and let it go, then you remember this. And now I'm talking to the choir. Okay, choir here. Remember, there are no failures if you have learned and grown from your mistakes. There are only lessons learned. Ooh, that's good. I think I'll say that one again. There are no failures if you have learned and grown from your mistakes. There are only lessons learned. Let's grab a hold of that one. Let myself today grab a hold of that one and learn from it. You grab a hold of that one and learn from it. No, no, no failures. You're not a failure. If you have learned and grown from things that have happened, there are only lessons. Every single thing is a lesson that we can learn from. The seventh one is begin to live intentionally. Live intentionally. Accept and love yourself more. Whatever's happening in your life right now, when you live with purpose and design, your purpose doesn't always have to be crystal clear, okay? It doesn't have to be crystal clear, but you have to have some kind of direction. If your intention is a meaningful and a healthy life, then you begin to make decisions that support that intention. When you get up in the morning, I talk about meditation all the time, and I try to do it on a low key, because for me it's not sitting there going for 5, 10, 15 minutes. Meditation is setting the intention for the day. What is my intention? What is it that I see myself accomplishing today? What is it that how do I see myself living today? How do I establish this intention? What is my intention? And as I stop and I'll just tell you every day what I start with. Okay, this is me. Every day it is create in me a clean heart, and dear God, renew a right spirit within me. And then I out loud say, my intention today is to be the expression of God on this earth. My intention. So I begin to live my life each day brand new intentionally. And as I begin to do that, there are times during the day that I stop and I kind of take a little bit of a notice. Am I on my intention? Oh, wow, you weren't exactly being the expression of love when you told this one this, and when you wanted to give this one the finger over there. And then I come back, I take a moment to breathe, I take a moment to center myself, I take a moment to stop before I say something. Have you ever noticed when you're around wise people? Wise people don't just spout off things, they stop and they intentionally say the next word. So I begin to practice intentionality. I begin to practice that what I'm doing, what I'm saying is on purpose and is intentional. And as I begin to practice these things more and more, they become natural to me. They become real to me. Now, you know, that inner child that we all have, the inner child that is within us, the inner child within me has always been crying for help and constantly wanting somebody to take care of it and wanting somebody to nurture it. And yet my inner child, I always was ignoring it. Until I realized one day, why do I expect love from others when I don't even know how to love myself? Why do I expect love from others when I don't even know how to love myself? And as I begin to ask myself these questions and begin to become more mindful and become where I could set boundaries and I could protect myself and I forgive myself and I begin to practice better self-care, then I begin to see that self-love is an action. It's not just a state of a feeling. And what I do know is that as you begin to start loving yourself, that the ego begins to be lessen. It becomes not how much money you have for a show, not what kind of car you drive, although nice cars are nice to drive. I remember that I was at a party at Liberace's house, and I asked Lee, I said, where do you get your fur coats? And at that time I was living in the penthouse on Doheny and Sunset and could afford whatever it is financially that I wanted to afford. And Lee told me the name of his furrier in Beverly Hills. And I went to the Beverly Hills Furrier, and I had a full length lynx made to match the color of my hair at the time. And I ended up with 3 different expensive fur coats. And at that particular time, I would living on Doheny, I could walk down to a bar called the Revolver, and I wouldn't go out until like late at night, okay? And like midnight. And I would go in, I'd be in a tank top and jeans, but I didn't have me. I'd have my full-length mink coat or lynx coat on, and I would just drag it through, because you see, I didn't have me. I had stuff. And I remember one day of the stuff wasn't even enough, and I closed the drapes, and I wouldn't go out except midnight. And I was going out to validate myself by somebody that I could pick up and have a sexual rendezvous with. That's how I validated. And if I didn't meet somebody, well, then of course my validation was really bad, and then I hated myself even worse. And this went on and went on for several months. And as it went on, finally I decided, that the only thing for me to do was to get off the planet. I was so ugly nobody would ever want me. I had nothing to offer anybody, that God, whatever this God was, didn't even want me. And that it was time for me just to get off the planet because I hurt so bad, looking to validate myself in through other people, stuff and opinions and yada, 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 yada. And it was through, sometimes you have to lose to gain. And remember what I said about failures? There's no such thing as a failure. If you learn from it, there's lessons learned. Through that time in my life that was such a dark time, there were so many lessons learned. And I realized that when you stop chasing happiness in things, the things that don't matter, then you begin to discover that the real joy is really within you. And when you start beginning to realize that the joy, the real joy that is within you, then you go for things that are ultimate fulfillment. There's something that you're really passionate about. But you need to set your life in order first before you start thinking about others. You need to do this because when we put others first and we're in a relationship, then that relationship is a codependent relationship. And we eventually, it turns out to be a disaster for both us and the other person. Our relationship with others is determined by how we think about ourselves. I think I need to repeat that again. Our relationship with others is determined about how we think about ourselves. If we are nasty towards ourselves, full of self-doubts, criticisms, that attitude will eventually start reflecting on our interaction. If you want to help someone and make a difference, you need to learn to help yourself first. Remember, self-love is not selfish. You've got to learn to love yourself before you love others. Just for today, as I end every talk, be kind to yourself, be kind to others, because kindness really is the language that the deaf can hear. Kindness is the language that the blind can see. Till next Sunday, Damien Calmette, sending you from my heart to your heart, love, acceptance, forgiveness. Let's become the love that we are here to be.